Hi everybody, Vigorous Rapscallion here. Now, it's come to my attention that some people were having a couple of issues setting this up for 5.4. I did some investigating, and a couple things have changed in 5.4 about how velocity is treated. It's not too hard to fix it, and you're going to be using mostly the same solution, but you do have to change one major thing, so let's look at what that is. We're going to start out the same way here. We're going to go ahead and duplicate this pistol. Let's call this throwing object proto. Great. Open that up just like last time. First, let's get the right mesh in front of us. So we're going to go ahead and delete everything but this grab component. Put in a static mesh. There we go. Then we're going to want to set that to the cube or whatever object we would like to throw. So, whoops, I accidentally renamed that to nothing. Let's call that object. Pull this up. And we are looking for the throwing cube. Man, that's annoying. And we're going to set that to our cube. I don't know why, but 5.4 also isn't showing all this stuff that's down in Engine when you search up here. Like if you were to search for this up here, you can't find it. You have to go down into Mesh now. So yeah, 5.4 seems a little funky about a couple of things, but let's keep going. Next, we want to go ahead and we're going to switch this to free, but it's really not going to matter for this solution. And you'll see why in just a moment. We're also going to want to go ahead and make sure we're simulating physics, and that's everything we need to set up here. Let's go over to the event graph. Okay, just like last time, we're not going to need any of this stuff up here. Go ahead and delete it. And we are going to need some of this, but we're not going to need this stuff here. Really all we're going to need is this get held by hand over here. And while we're getting to that, so the main thing that's changed is it used to be that if an object was parented to another, you could still get its linear velocity. That is no longer the case. If an object is parented to another, then its velocity basically reads out as 0. I assume that's an optimization thing, that you're calculating less velocities, which should save a lot of resources if you have like a object with a bunch of things attached to it, but it also completely breaks what I set up in the last video. So how are we going to fix it? Well, we need to get the velocity from something that it's actually measuring the velocity of, and what that can be, if we go up to our VR pawn here, is our motion controller left grip or our motion controller right grip. But we need to tell the program which one we're dealing with. So what we're going to do is drag off from this little function here and type in select. You're going to go down to just your basic select. And then from this on grab component, we want to get actor of class. And we want that to be VR pawn. Great. And we want to return two things. And then plug them into that selector. So let's start with motion controller left, and then you're going to scroll down here to left grip, and then we're going to do the same thing but for right. Let's put that up there. Get motion controller right grip. There we go. So in the case this is true, we want that to put back out our right grip. If it's false, we want the left grip, and then we need some kind of reference to this in the actor that we're dealing with here. So we're going to change the type of this variable. First, let's name it. Let's go ahead and call this held by hand. And let's switch that to a motion controller reference. It's going to be this second one here, the motion controller component. I am going to try this again with data and see if it works differently, but for now, this works. So we're going to set that. Move that back up there. Bang. And now we can start doing everything we did in the first video. First, we're going to make a boolean called isHeld. I think there's a built-in isHeld, but I've been too lazy to find it, so we're just going to make our own. Then we're going to grab that, set to true, and then just like last time, we want to make sure we're setting that back to false when we drop the object. Now we need that event tick again. We're going to get isHeld, and we're going to put a branch out of it. In the case it's true, we want to start logging our velocity into an array. So let's call this velocity array. Make that a vector, and then an array of vectors, compile, and make it 5 elements. So elements 0 through 4. If that's true, then we want to take this held by hand. Let's go ahead and get linear velocity. That's a little different because the type of component it is, that doesn't have to be in the logic chain anymore. It shouldn't really change anything about how it works though. Then let's grab our velocity array, set element, drag off from that true branch, grab our linear velocity, and then on this index here, let's just go ahead and promote to variable. Let's call this velocity log flow control. Great. Then we're going to do a greater than off of that velocity log flow control, and we're going to set that to 3. So if it's at 4, we want something different to happen. Let's grab this branch, plug that in. So once it's at 4, we want this whole thing to reset. So let's go ahead and set velocity control to 0. Otherwise, we want velocity control to increment. So plus plus to increment int. And just like last time, this is going to create a rolling array, which is fine because we do not need to worry about order since we are just getting the average. Then we're going to grab that object and we're going to set linear velocity. That all back up, get our velocity array, get average, boom, and that should be all we need to do. Let's go ahead and try it out. I'll get a still shot of the whole thing so you can get a good look, and then up there a still shot of the logic to check which hand we have. And one last thing, I think I forgot to do this before. We want to make sure that the object is the root component here, not the grab component, the object. Okay, let's try it out. We got a couple right here. Pick them up fine, and they throw fine. Couple of things I don't love. One, it feels even floatier than the last solution. I'm not sure why. I think a lot's changed about how they're handling velocity. And it feels a little more, I guess, video gamey, like cartoony. It feels more like the thing's coming straight out of where you throw it, which sounds good. Sounds like it's more predictable, but it feels more like firing a gun now than it did before, which I'm not necessarily a huge fan of. I'm going to work with it more in 5.4 and see what else I can, tweak to make it feel a little different. There's another thing. Before, setting the linear velocity did not automatically set the angular velocity to 0. It seems to be doing that now. So you're going to have to do what I did in the second part of the throwing setup in the first video and do the same thing where you gather angular velocity and then set angular velocity in the same way from the motion controller set to the object, and then you should get it rotating. Also, like I said, it does feel pretty floaty. I would just go ahead and multiply that vector by 2, the vector that's being fed in, to set the velocity of the object. and you should get something that feels better than this really does feel kind of slow. So try that out, let me know if it works, and thanks for watching.